and welcome back. For this video, I am going to be doing a hair coloring tutorial. I am by no means an expert on this, but I was asked if I could do a tutorial on this. So, just going through real quick with my lightest color. And I am mapping out the same way I usually do with my shadows. I'm mapping out the darker areas. When I do this, I'm doing a flicking motion with the marker tip. Now, if you don't have brush tips, this becomes a little bit more of a challenge. When I first started, I did the regular, I don't even know, are they bullet tips? I don't know, the regular nibs for most markers. And it was a little bit more difficult. It is not impossible to do by any means. And if this is all you use, then you will get comfortable with it pretty quickly. Anyway, I'm just mapping out some areas that I want to be darker, but I'm using my lightest color because unlike some where they leave a white highlight, I do not prefer to do that. So my lightest color will actually be my highlight color. For these images, I do find that the more I have colored them, the better off I am when it comes to coloring hair. Like at the end of the video, I will show you the little mermaid stamps that I colored. And I colored the same one repeatedly with different marker combinations to give me different hair colors and skin tones. And the longer I did it, the more I did it, the easier it got. So just practice. If you're not comfortable with it, just stamp something and just start coloring it. And if it doesn't turn out, don't have high hopes for it to start with. Like, don't think I'm going to make this front and center on a card. Just stamp it to color. Just practice. So if you mess up, you'll learn from that. Now, this takes a while. I mean, if you do it a lot, it won't take you nearly as long. And if you're really comfortable with it, you can use your darkest color right out of the gate. But I get heavy-handed with my colors, and I'm not always 100% confident in where I'm placing my darker colors. So I always go lightest, then I do the mid-tone, and then I do the darkest. But again, it's up to personal preference. I started my whole alcohol marker, Copic, whatever journey, I think it was back in 2017, but I didn't have a lot of time to do that stuff at that point. And I think it was at the end of 2017, but I could be wrong. And then I really picked it up heavy in, I think, 2018, 2019. So my coloring before that was extremely limited. And shading scared me. And my color combinations, I just really wasn't super comfortable with. I wasn't sure about it. So this is from years of practice. This is not something that, I was just great at right out of the gate. Now, I will say God has blessed me with the ability to create things. That's just the talent that He gave me. And with practice, I've gotten better at it. So if it's taking you a little while, don't feel bad. It took me a while too. And at this point, I'm mostly happy with most of the things I color. And I mean, there are times where I color something that I'm just like, ugh, nope, I have to redo this. This is garbage. I guess the biggest thing is just practice and don't compare yourself to other people. Just compare yourself to yourself. And you might not see progress right away. And even once you make progress, you still might not see it. And I know for the longest time, I didn't realize I had gotten any better. It was only when I started going through some of the older things that I colored, and I look back on those and I was just like, yeah, I can see a difference now. So to recap, so far I have laid down my lightest color to sort of map out where I want my midtones and then eventually some of my darkest tones. And then I took my midtone and I pretty much covered over the exact same areas as I did with the lightest color. Now, if I felt like I did not leave enough white space, I would not take my midtone out quite as far. And now I am using my darkest color and I am going over some of the areas that I have already colored. The only difference is I'm not going quite as far into the center. I still want there to be some of that mid-tone left. And this is why I don't do my darkest color first, just because I feel like I would go too far and then I would have little to no highlight space left. One tip I do have is that when you're coloring, if you hold your paper further away from you and don't really focus on anything in particular, just kind of look at it, it kind of helps you see the piece a little better, and you can kind of figure out if you've left enough highlights, if you've got too many highlights. Just, you can do this a couple times before your piece is finished to kind of see if it's looking like you want it to. That being said, if you do look very closely at what you've colored when you color hair, it doesn't look that pretty if you're just like really paying attention to the different marker strokes. So don't get caught up looking at it too close. It still looks fine. It's just some of the areas, they're so small that the brush strokes aren't really thin enough to exactly look like hair. I don't know. You guys will see what I mean if you color hair and you look at it really close. And now my little brown-haired girl is complete. Well, her hair anyway. I will work on coloring the other stuff on camera too. Again, I'm not an expert on this, but I can show you how I do it. Now, I did decide to use a more of a reddish hair color, a blonde hair color, and a black hair color. And I did this just so that you could see or get an idea of the marker families that you could use for this. And especially with the black hair, if you just go in with grays, it's going to look gray. It just is. And you can't color it solid black or you're going to lose all your details. So we'll go over that too, at least for what I do. If you want to get a good idea for different hair colors, I do have a couple of sheets that I have on my Instagram page of various marker combinations that I use for hair. Like I mentioned before, I have a bunch of mermaids that I stamped out. They're all the same. I just colored them all differently. And I keep that in my binder so that I have quick reference for different hair colors and skin tones. So I am going to show you coloring this little boy's hair. His hair was difficult for me because all the little parts that stick out. And I had a really hard time. He was so small anyway. And really on these small little images, you can probably get away with doing less colors. Again, this is me probably being overkill. It's what I do. I can't help it. My brain says, go for 3 colors. And then sometimes there's just not enough room for 3. And on his hair, because it's so short, I felt that. I mean, it still turned out fine. But I honestly think it probably would have been fine with 2 colors as well. Alright, now that my little boy is complete, I am moving on to the girl with the black hair. Now, I'm using a C5, a BV08, and a C9. Now, the C9 is very dark. And the C5, I mean, if I was just to color her hair like that, it would just look gray. It would look like a dark gray, but it would still look gray. So, in order to make it not look blobby, because, you know, if you use a straight black, that's going to make it so that you don't have any definition. And in order to make it not look gray, you can add either a blue or a violet or a blue violet or whatever color, and it will just give it a nice depth in color without it being gray. So you can play around with that. I have done different shades of gray with different shades of blue and purple, and I think this one is my favorite to do black hair. Now, that being said, I have not done a ton of black hair, so you might find other combos that you really love. So just practice, search online. I'm sure there's other YouTube videos that have people showing their hair colors, or maybe Pinterest, anything like that. I mean, Instagram probably has something. Now here's a quick look at the hair and skin tones that I have done that you can find on my Instagram page. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Bye!